I kind of got want to zoom out a little bit now. So when you think about the women's game overall, like you said, you didn't want to go into women's, and that's kind of like a, it was a weird situation for you. So like when you think about the women's game, not to compare to the men's game, but like what are some of the differences? Like not to compare, but to compare if that makes
For
sense.
sure. So first off, I'll say like obviously that was an ignorant statement of me to make back then, just because I was young and just didn't really give it a chance.
Yeah.
Um, I think if people would really give the women's game a chance, they'd really be impressed by what they see. Like women's basketball is extremely high level and is actually very entertaining. Like,
Yes.
um, I think it's just one of those things. Like obviously, just the casual basketball fan that doesn't really know, just the ins and outs strategies or whatever. What are they looking for? They're looking for dunks. They're looking for,
Mm-hmm.
mega athletic chase down blocks and, all these, superhuman plays. But I'm
Yeah.
like, even though the women's game might not have those specific things, it
Mm-hmm.
has everything else that you're looking for. I
Yep.
mean, you look at some of the best women's players in the world. Sabrina Ionescu, like, setting the WNBA record for the first ever 30-point triple double in WNBA history. Like, that's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
you look at the Candace Parkers, the Sue Birds, Diana Taurasi's, like, I mean, these women are extremely talented. And not to mention a lot of the guys that are, talking down on women's basketball. I dare you guys to go play them one-on-one because I guarantee you, like, they will give you the business. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
even in our program, like, and I'm doing drills with our girls, I'm playing dummy defense and stuff like that. Like, I got to work a little bit. Like it's not like,
Oh
and
yeah.
like I'm not, like I said, I didn't play college basketball, so I mean, I played growing up, but I'm not high caliber player by any means. But if you come out there half stepping, like you'll get exposed. Like so,
Mm-hmm.
if people would really give it a chance, I think they'd really be impressed by what they see. Now to compare the two, um, I think the women's side is a more pure form of the game
Mm-hmm.
just because, and I say that because, like, not to say there aren't athletic women because there clearly are, but
Mm-hmm.
like, I think so many guys get over on just athleticism alone. Like, you hear it every year in the draft, like, guys are drafted off of potential. Oh, he's a mega athlete, but 3 years from now, he can develop into this or
Mm-hmm.
that. So we're going to draft him as a lottery pick in hopes that he turns into this based solely off of athleticism. And
Yep.
then what happens? You see so many guys that are mega athletic that never develop. 2 years down the line, they're not in the league anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because they never had that base of skill and fundamentals to begin with. They got
Mm-hmm.
over because they could jump out of the gym, they could dunk on everybody, they could block every shot, and they could just put their head down and get to the bucket whenever they wanted.
Yep.
Versus, on the women's side, who you may have some athleticism, but it's in a different way. Most, I won't say most, I'll say I think the majority of the women's game is kind of started from the fundamentals and built up, where I think you see so many guys kind of start from the athleticism side and kind of just go from there. So like I
Yep.
said, I think it's a more pure form. um I think, like I said, women, I mean, play hard. In my experience, I'll say girls play harder. They actually listen. You don't deal with as many egos. They actually listen to you and want to try to do what you're asking them to do.
Yes.
And I think more women are realistic. I mean, you know how it is. Like growing up,
Yeah.
heck, I was going to the league. I mean, we were all going to be number one picks. We were going to be playing on TV. Like we were all going to the league. Like, and I
Yep.
mean, I'm not saying kids shouldn't dream. I'm not saying that at all. Obviously, like dream to your heart's desire. But there comes a point in that where reality has to set in. Like when I played my last high school game and I knew, okay, this is it. Like there's still guys sitting on the couch 2, 3 years removed from high school basketball, reliving the glory days, thinking, oh, I got overlooked. I'm slept on. I wasn't given a fair shot. All the crazy stuff that you hear. And it's just like, dude,
Yeah.
you really weren't like that to begin with. I hate to break it to you, but like that's just the reality of the situation. So
Yep.
like I said, I just think the women's game is a more pure form of the game. And just in my experience, I mean, girls are loyal. Like I said, they'll listen to you. I think they're more coachable. Um, and I think it's just fun. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't really know how else to put it other than like my experience has just been a lot of fun. I think the young ladies that I've had the pleasure of coaching have just been fun to be around, even off the court. It's just been good people, easy to
Yeah.
laugh and joke and just converse with and just have real conversations with. And like I said, they're more realistic. So the majority of girls go into college basketball knowing like, okay, these after these 4 years, I'm getting in my career. Like I'm not going to the WNBA. Like I'm here obviously for basketball, to help pay for my schooling, but this is just a gateway for me to, get into my career. So, but the ones that come into it with the right mindset, they're gonna give you everything you got for those 4 years because they know this is it, like
Yeah.
forever. So it's a
Yeah.
little bit different mindset they're kind of coming into it. Like I said, in my experience, but I love the women's game, and I really wish more people would give it a chance. And it's amazing to see like how far it's coming. Obviously, obviously social media has helped that tremendously. Obviously you're seeing more, men's basketball players really buying into the women's game, which obviously helps,
Oh yeah.
push the narrative. I mean, you're seeing obviously, my favorite player of all time, Kobe. Obviously, you were able to see like what he was able to do, before he passed, with Gigi, his daughter, and really, sparking interest in the women's game, and obviously coaching his daughter's team. And young girls see that and they're able to shoot for something tangible because they're like, well, if she can do that, why can't I do that? So
Yeah.
it's just something that the more that we're able to push kind of the narrative forward of how good women's basketball actually is, it's only going to grow the game. And I mean, the stuff that some of these young girls are able to do now is just like insane.
Ridiculous.
I mean, I was fortunate. I actually went to the NCAA Final Four and national championship game in Minneapolis. So like the national championship game, so I saw UConn play South Carolina, and obviously South Carolina ended up winning. But I mean, just to see Paige Beckers in person go to work, like it's unreal. Destiny Henderson has 29 points in the national championship game. It was going crazy. It's like this girl can like forget. And I think like it's one of those things like people say, and you hear it all the time, like for a girl, she's nice. I'm like, no, for a
No, she
hooper, she
nice.
is nice. Like, period.
Yeah.
It don't
Yeah.
matter. Guy, girl, like she's tough. Like Aaliyah
Yeah.
Boston and like all these, high caliber players. It's like guys, like if you would watch, you'd really be surprised at what you see because these girls can really hoop.
Yes,
so
man.
it, so I mean that's my spill, but I mean I love the women's game, and that's just kind of some of the differences. I know everybody's experience is probably different, but
Yeah.
like I said, it was the best decision I ever made, and I don't regret a second of it. So I love it.
I 100% agree and co-sign everything you said, man. Because from my point of view as a trainer, I work with guys and girls,
For
and
sure.
it's just like, first off, the automatic differences that you know of is the athleticism,
For
but
sure.
the underlayer neath in that people don't always think about is the girls have to be more skilled because they can't dunk. Like you said, a
For
guy can
sure.
get away with not being skilled. I'm gonna just run past you because I'm faster, stronger, more athletic than you.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't need skill to run past you. That's
For
easy to
sure.
do. I just run and dunk over you.
Absolutely.
It's easy. But versus a girl where, okay, we're the same speed, same size. I have to outthink my way to get past you now, which comes with more skill. So you have higher IQ and more skill now. So
For
combine
sure.
those two together, and you keep leveling up from there. And the guy goes 10 years without really having to become fully skilled to really get good at certain things. Of course, the gap is going to keep growing wider and wider to where girls overall are more skilled than guys. Not to say
Uh,
guys aren't skilled, but the percentage pool of women's being skilled versus men's being skilled is totally different.
it's
So it's
it's
just,
it's a wide margin, wide
yes.
margin for sure.
Yeah, so that's the hands down biggest difference. And I think part of the realistic part of it too is that the opportunities for women's game is the margin of the gap between men's opportunity versus women's opportunities is completely different too. To where it's almost weird because a lot of the girls I train aren't even aware of the not they're not aware of it, but they don't fully know about the WNBA and that it's something that's attainable.
Yeah, for
Versus they
sure.
know NBA players, they know Steph, LeBron, KD, they can rattle off those names easy. Like I've heard of Candace Parker, I've heard of Sue Bird and Maya Moore. She no, and it's just weird to see because girls aren't even aware of that whole opportunity being there, man. So
Yeah,
I think that they aren't given the same amount of opportunities. Like you go to an open gym right now, you're gonna see 30 dudes in there who can't hoop, 3 or 4 girls on the sideline playing volleyball on the side, or they watching because their brother's there or something.
yeah, for sure.
And it might be one girl hooping there, and she probably cold or finna be cold because she's hooping with guys. So it's just
Yeah,
like they aren't given opportunities to have the same level of growth that the guys do. So I think that kind of makes a damper on their dreams to be a little more less realistic to where I can do something off after college basketball because
Yeah.
only a handful will think about playing overseas or even having some type of pro career. But guys, every dude playing, he can go D3 or ongoing pro.
Exactly. Exactly. No, I think it's one of those things, like I said, as we continue to push the narrative of the women's game, and I think it's just like anything, the more it's thrown in your face, the more you realize that, okay, this is an attainable thing. Like there is opportunity for me here.
Yeah,
I agree. I think it's one of those things, like as much as obviously we as males should work to push the women's game forward, I think there's, equally as many females that have to acknowledge that women's basketball is actually good basketball, and B, like help, continue to push the narrative forward as well, because it's just like anything. The more women's players that young girls see as an attainable and intangible thing, like they gravitate towards that. Now the difference is I think you see a lot of girls kind of pick up basketball later than
mm-hmm.
guys do. Like, I mean, I started playing when I was 6 years old, like, and that just kind of was what it was. But a lot of times you won't see girls really lock in on basketball till, 8, 9, 10, sometimes even later than that, just
Mm-hmm.
because like you don't see youth girls basketball leagues at 6, 7, 8 years old. What do you see? You see a handful of girls playing with on the boys teams, right?
Yeah,
Because that just is what it is. So, I mean, that's just kind of what it is. I don't know if that'll ever change, and it's a little unfortunate, but like I said, it just kind of is what it is. But
yeah,
obviously with social media now, and um, the work that both the NBA, the WNBA, and really college basketball is doing to really push the women's game forward. My hope is, 20 years down the line, women's it's not like women's basketball is not one of those things to where like, I get asked all the time, like, what drove you to the women's game? Like, do you enjoy that? Like, why did you do that? Like, and just kind of like, not weirdness, but just so many questions around it. It's like, dude, like at the end of the day, I'm coaching college basketball. Like, and I
yeah,
think if people would, like I said, really lock into it and give it a chance, they'd be impressed with what they see. But I think with that, the more that we drive it forward and push it out, obviously that sparks interest in more younger girls, at an earlier age, and kind of push that forward. And obviously from an opportunity standpoint, it's tough too, because I mean you see on the men's side, like you have all these semi-pro leagues, like you have the G League, like you've got these overseas leagues, like you've got the NBA, like you got all these opportunities over here. And in women's basketball, you might have a semi-pro league here and there, but it's really either WNBA, which is extremely hard to make when you got 12 teams with 12 roster spots. So you got 144 players. So I mean, you
mm-hmm.
got stud basketball players that aren't on WNBA rosters right now, which is
Mm-hmm.
crazy, but it just is what it is. Or you go play overseas, which is great, and you're gonna make more money, but the pub of that doesn't really translate back to here. So
Yeah,
as many like American players that are playing overseas right now, like we're not fully aware of all of them, because like I mean the overseas leagues aren't really televised here.
mm-hmm.
So that takes away, I think, from some of those potential role models that young girls could see as potential opportunities, just because it's not in our face.
Yeah,
What's in our face is college basketball, obviously, and the WNBA. My hope is that, and obviously I know money and viewership, drives a lot of these things, but
yep,
my hope is we get to a point to where we can expand the WNBA into some other cities, allow a few more roster spots, maybe get those rosters from maybe 12 to 14, and,
mm-hmm.
maybe allow a couple more players to play, to spark some interest in these different areas that some of these players are coming from. And
Mm-hmm.
with that growth, maybe way down the line, maybe develop a women's, something like a G League or minor league system, to where, okay, maybe you aren't that level, but maybe you can play at a G League and still be considered professional, and that
Yeah,
just sparks more interest. But at the end of the day, as unfortunate as it is, it really comes down to money and viewership and interest. But
mm-hmm.
I just think it's up to us as a basketball community to accept women's basketball as basketball. Well,
Mm-hmm.
number one, and two, just keep putting it in people's face and helping them understand, like, no, this is a good thing, and it's actually very entertaining.
Oh yeah, man, and it's something I kind of thought about too, man. Like around the time the NBA started promoting the 75th anniversary season and stuff, and so the WNBA is about my age, it's around my age. I'm
Yeah.
26.
Mm-hmm.
So you comparing basically comparing a 26-year-old to a 75-year-old.
For sure. Yeah.
That's not fair.
There's no comparison. Yeah, it's not fair. And I think a lot of people don't really take that into consideration because the WNBA is still so new.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, like I said, it's up to us to push it to a point to where the WNBA is forced to expand and, give more opportunities and, do those sorts of things, because that's only going to impact and improve the basketball community as a whole. But like you said, it's not fair to compare. Like, I mean, it's just not that, like, that's like comparing me as a coach, like going into my 6th year to Gino, like, or Dawn Staley. I'm a huge Dawn Staley fan. Like, that's like comparing me to Dawn Staley. Like, there's no comparison. And that's not fair for me to even think that I'm even in her tax bracket. So I think it's a similar type situation there. But I think, in due time, I think it'll happen.
Oh yeah. It just takes time, man. And then another thing I was thinking about too, you have to compare the timeline of it too, because it wasn't too long ago, like around the 40s, like around the Bird Magic years, that the NBA was almost gone.
For sure. Yeah.
So you got to give it time, man. And that was like a little, I guess, in the 40s, I guess, around the age wise of the league. So it takes a little more time, man. And so the WNBA is in a rough spot, but the men's basketball league was too. So I think, like you said, it takes more time to develop and grow and figure out the direction the league has to take. And, everybody plays a role in it. I can't sit here and just say all the ladies have to do this and the guys don't do anything, or it's on the league and not on us. Like, it's everybody that plays a part in this whole thing. So
for sure, it's up to us as the basketball community to continue to grow both sides, men and women's side, but obviously, the women's side, and continue to grow and push it forward.